You need to solve a problem. When people are starting a product, this is like second nature. They have to solve a problem. When people are starting a community, for some reason, it's not always second nature. Like, I'm going to just have a community because I want to.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Category Champions. Today we have Jared Rowan on the show. He's the co-founder and CEO of RevGenius, which is a digital community that brings together professionals in the fields of sales, marketing, RevOps, and customer success. Jared's a very great guest for this show because he has a fit on both sales, on marketing, on category creation, and also on communities. So today we're going to talk about everything combined, and especially about the role of communities in category creation. So let's just get started. Awesome. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the intersection between communities and category creation. The way I say it, and I love to hear your thoughts on this, is when you're creating a category, you're creating a movement. And movements like religions need a place to congregate, like a church. That's how I see the impact of communities within categories. How do you see the relationship between them? How do you turn a cult into a community and vice versa? Where do you see it as somebody that has like built a really big and large and engaged community?
Yeah, so cult is the beginning of culture.
Tell me more.
Literally in the word, right?
Yeah,
but it's also like before it becomes culture, it's a cult.
Right.
And then it spreads like, the hip hop folks wearing, all the gear like that they wore, like the Tommy Hilfiger and all of that. It was a tight knit group, and then it became a big movement.
I love that.
And there's many other examples throughout time. But yeah, from your point, you need a movement, and community is the impetus behind that. Absolutely agree.
I love it. What's the movement that you guys kind of captured with RevGenius, right? Like, what's the beginning of that? Do you see that there's a movement that needs a place? Do you create the place and then it creates a movement? Kind of tell me how that kind of worked.
It's awesome question. So there's something happening with communities in B2B SaaS and GTM. They're not really differentiated from others. They're for certain people, but they don't each necessarily have a unique point of view or stance. And it's making them kind of like not clearly defined as different from one another. So like if we're a community for sales, marketing, RevOps, and customer success, and there's another community for one of those things, why do you go to one over the other? Now, like when there are brands out there that are creating communities for their product, the ones that are really good at it, like the Anthony Kennedas that of the world that we spoke about, have a unique point of view. His is around owned media, which obviously will evolve into a category. You could see that foreshadowing very clearly. Yeah. His other point of view with customer success and what happened there. Our point of view initially was to create a space for everybody, whether you're entry level or senior leader in sales, marketing, RevOps, and customer success. It wasn't necessarily a strong enough point of view, and it's certainly not necessarily a category. So when other folks like created like a RevOps only community or this only community, it could be looked at as more interesting because it was like niche, and dare I say like a point of view of just this, like, but even that wasn't a point of view.
Right.
So what we're doing, I realized that because, and then you're also at a time simultaneously where people are building audiences and calling them communities.
Yeah.
I have a subscriber list of 100,000. My community loves me. I do a social post on Twitter or LinkedIn, even better. And I have 20,000 impressions from my community.
My community.
Right?
Right.
And so if it wasn't enough that you have a community which I define as a group of like-minded people that are collaborating and learning from one another to a common goal or help one another. It's not enough that you have like this undefined, but now you have audience building, which is throwing out the word community, and people are taking to it because it's a really good word.
Right.
It's a really good word. It's like, yeah, communities are hot.
It even feels good to say, right? Like I have a community. Yeah.
So communities are hot, but the category community, if it's even a category, is becoming nebulous. So now I'm like, okay, I didn't come out. Sure, I had a point of view, like we're the bad kids, like letting everybody in, like.
I saw you talked about inclusivity on Twitter about,
and I think that's great.
Yeah.
But is that a strong enough point of view? Is that a category? It can be argued not. And how easy is it for others just to be like, yeah, we're inclusive too, and that's a good thing that we helped everything.
Totally.
But so now you have audience building, reaching out, calling themselves communities not defining, and it's not just us, like all of them, not defining a unique point of view. Like, yeah, we're for this people. Okay, fine. What's your point of view on everything?
Right.
So we're going back and now creating a category, not just for community, but like collaborative growth. This idea that whatever you want to call community, fine, but collaborative growth is the most important thing, where you're lifting up the other side of the equation, the other person. You say X led growth, right? Like community led growth or whatever. You're lifting up that community too, not just leveraging them for the company's growth. You're sustaining both. And collaborative growth is very much the sustainability of everybody in there. And now I have a unique point of view. And now that RevOps or sales or whatever community coming in, they're going to say, huh,
right,
we do that too. We are a collaborative growth platform. You see, it's taken me a lot of work and a lot of learning to build this out. And then you have the audience builders or whatever, clearly, a little more clearly, because and building an audience is wonderful. It's important. It's a great marketing strategy.
Yeah.
But it's not community.
Yeah. If it's one way, right? Like a community has to be interconnected and both ways. If so it's you talking to them, that's not a community.
I'm kind of here saying this, also asking for your feedback. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love to hear how your point of view and story has changed. Right? Like it has evolved since the beginning. And then when I think about what's the mode of a community, right? I think what's the point of view that this community has, that it's different from everybody else. And I also think the other mode of a community is the members, right? Like what are the relationship across members that you're building, how engaged they are. I think that's what makes a community completely different versus a Slack group, right? Like what's the difference between a Slack group and a community? I think it comes down to what unites us and what's the relationship across members.
Yeah. And, with the collaborative growth, we'll have new products launching that involve community members more.
I love that.
And that give equity to the members as well as the companies that are paying for the services. With collaborative growth, we'll think about the larger community more. Perhaps pick a small handful of nonprofits that align with our space and support them. And the point of view as it evolves is it's the idea that in tech right now, and in tech in general, like we've just been blind to it. Sustainability means sustaining the company only. You could cut off 10,000 employees to become sustainable, and we've seen it.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm not saying anything. Well,
you are.
It's understandable.
Yeah. But
long term, that's not going to be sustainable. How are they going to hire their next people when everybody's disenfranchised?
Yeah.
It's just food for thought, throughout. And unfortunately, layoffs and stuff are necessary to keep the company afloat. But are there things that we could do throughout and earlier and all of this to help?
Yeah, I think it seems like the easy way out, right? Like the harder way to do this is to make sure you're not overhiring unnecessarily, right? Like you have a sustainable plan of things that are going to make sense. If you have to fire 10,000 people, you probably made a mistake along the way. Give me a bit of context on your go-to-market as a community, right? Like obviously, like you have this idea of building this community for RevGenius. How does the go-to-market look like? how has it changed? What's the importance of talking to the members to like help you dictate your go-to-market and like what the community has to evolve in? How does the community grow, especially in the early days?
In the early days, what's important is, we had a point of view, even if I didn't state it, like you need to solve a problem. And when people are starting a product, this is like second nature. They have to solve a problem. When people are starting a community, for some reason, it's not always second nature. Like, I'm going to just have a community of all this. Because I want to. And actually, to be honest, when most people start a community, they are solving a problem, even if they don't realize it.
Right.
And it might be something as simple as a problem for them. For us, there were no, at least in my novice mind, I didn't see any communities that allowed everybody in for no dollars, from an individual contributor to a senior leader. And I felt strongly that to lift the whole space, there needed to be a space like this. To have the biggest impact on the most people, you need to let everybody in. And that there was a benefit even for senior leaders to be in here. So armed with this crazy idea, and even before this, I found product market fit, and there's community market fit.
Yeah.
I want to make that clear.
Love it.
Like by having a small group of folks in a LinkedIn chat. I thought people needed an easier way to find all the events in the space. So I created a Google sheet with all of the events in the space.
Like an MVP of the community.
Yeah. And my thought was there was a handful of communities. There was 10 times that in the companies out there all creating events. And I'm like, they're all good events. Let's centralize that. Like I wanted to be, and I always wondered why communities especially would just support their own events versus others. And I get it now a little bit, but like, so we created a spreadsheet. I had a group of 4 people in a LinkedIn chat. We called ourselves the 4 Musketeers. And they were all pretty cool. Like we were all like getting active on LinkedIn. I needed to because I was looking for a job. But like, then I said, hey, can you just invite a couple more people here that are like you? And that was, I want to acknowledge it wasn't like, and what I meant by that is like vibe wise, like how they looked and stuff, like,
right?
Because like
I get it.
That could be misconstrued. I am somebody of privilege, right? But I'm like, I just want to create a vibe like this. Can you bring people that have a vibe like that vibe?
Yeah.
So they did. I'm like, I don't care who it is. Like they just need that energy. And then a few more people came in, and I'm like, every week, I'm like, hey, we have a list of all the events.
Love that.
I don't know if they ever saw that list, dude. But I'll tell you what I did see. They were breaking Slack. Not Slack. They were breaking LinkedIn every single day.
Wow.
It became a group of 25 people. And I'm like, geez, I think this is what a community is.
Yeah.
Because everybody was talking so much, loving each other so much. And they told me to go to Slack. So I went to Slack. The first part of the go-to-market happened, and is creating a group of incessant fans.
Are you thinking
unintentionally, because we're solving a problem in creating a space that they didn't have.
Are you thinking here, I want to create this huge community, or is it still, I just want to have a group of people who have a good vibe, who we're thinking about more or less the same problems, and like, is this just organic, or is this thinking this route I go?
It started organic, and it became thinking about this is where I wanted to go.
Love it.
On LinkedIn, it wasn't that. On Slack, we were just growing so fast that people were like pushing me to grow faster. So then that became a focus. And dude, I was literally reaching out to people saying, hey, Marty, I have a community of sales, marketing, and RevOps professionals. It's inclusive. What's the best email to send you?
I love that. Yeah.
Email. What is this? Is it like enter blank? Well, you don't have to pay.
Yeah.
So is it like that? Oh, I'm in. So I think that there's a category in there, but like it was something not well defined.
I love it. I run a very small community of about 50 agency owners for about a couple of years, and it was a lot of work to like make sure people were engaged, the way everything was structured and organized. Uh, you run a community of thousands of people. When our community still felt like a tight knit group, when it gets to like thousands of members, how do you keep a community engaged? How do you keep them organized? What's your role in the community? Does it still feel like you're the community moderator? Like what when you get to that scale, what does a community look like for somebody that has created it?
You need to manage a community like you would manage your clients for a growth product, right? You need to look at different gates like acquisition, activation, engagement, retention, right? And so you need to focus on one and try to improve it, right? Like how could I make onboarding better? And then ideally have systems set up to measure it, that it's actually doing it. How could I acquire more folks if that is your goal? And that isn't always, or it shouldn't always be like a North Star for community. So don't worry about that. I mean, at times it is a vanity metric, and vanity metrics aren't always bad at the start because they definitely open up other doors and you figure it out. They're probably bad long term because you need the right North Star.
Right.
But yeah, and then you need to roll out things for a lot of people, and at the same time, you need to niche down. We created 3 micro communities: a GTM one, a RevOps one, and an NRR one, which are just channels in Slack that started at 0.
Love
and
it.
like one is at like 1,000 now. The next one's probably at like 500. And it's our goal to add more relevant people there. And then from a messaging standpoint, you're using a combination of like segmentation and some automation based on interaction or jobs or, some criteria. You try to make it as specific to the person as possible. And then with the niche down, I have 3 onboardings every week personally that like 10 people come to.
Love it.
So I'll onboard, I don't know, like 25 to 50 people a week personally over an hour and a half. So I do things that don't scale as well. And then I've created an onboarding sequence. So not a sequence, but also a place where they could go. That's like a 5-minute thing telling them like the quick things to do. I think spending when you have figuring out niche spaces for them to be in and nailing onboarding are both extremely important at the starting, and then and then that's where a lot of our time is, and then we're figuring out the right mix of events. But to say it's easy and 37,000 people are all having their needs met,
right,
is a lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just trying to do as good as possible for as many people as possible.
Yeah. There's a certain segment of people who I'm guessing are like your super consumers, right? Like when I talk to people about category creation, like we call them the evangelists, the people that will like shout from the rooftops that this new category is happening or that this community is the place to be. What are some of the things that like help you identify them? And do you do anything to like help support these super consumers, these people that are like maybe like organically moderating threads or adding their thoughts because they want to, because they feel very relevant to it? Is there anything you do special with them, or is there any way to like create more of them?
We don't yet. It's just hard to have the resources.
Yeah. How do they come up?
Things. What's that?
How do they how do
There's
you
tools?
Yeah.
We use Common Room.
Yeah.
Show us who's the most active.
I love that.
Yeah, and I'm just being very real. Like anybody who says that they do all of this,
no, this is great.
It's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Some do better than others, but yeah,
I love that.
We'll figure out. So like in a free community, like it's also more work like than it already is, right? Like what we've done is we've created a paid community as well of senior leaders called Rev Room that I'm really excited about. And it's the idea that we're creating a trusted space for curious revenue leaders who are collaborating around the future of B2B go-to-market. And that word collaborating is in there.
I love that. I love that.
And then that mission came over to RevGenius, and we just switched out the word leaders and professionals. But like, we're collaborating on the future of B2B go-to-market. When we collaborate, we lift the roof and we create abundance.
Amazing. I've seen you talk on Twitter about the impact of AI and community, and saying that AI is not going to be able to replace community. Do they see AI as something that can help create better communities? Do they see them as completely different things? Because one is like not very human versus communities that are known for like the humanity in them. How do you see things change? I know we have just a few minutes left, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on how
I think
evolve.
AI will probably help manage communities, help serve up learnings for community managers to take action on, help us find answers to questions, like how many people in July dropped off after how many weeks, like serving that up, like super easy. I think AI has a massive place. Now, is AI going to, I mean, dude, we're using automation.
Mm-hmm.
AI has a chance to make automation more personal.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Now, AI can't become the community, I don't think, although there will eventually be a community of just AI bots. And that's going to be kind of meta, right?
Just to like finalize the episode and kind of bring everything together, for B2B brands that are thinking, okay, we want to create their own category, we need a place for them to congregate and to like just become one together. Maybe what's some advice that you'd give a brand, especially B2B, or a founder that is thinking about this, to create a community that actually helps them and really helps the people that brings them? I know it's a very general question, but maybe what are some of the things that you would have liked to know and that you can pass on to B2B brands that are thinking about community building or community-led growth for category creation?
Building a community is extremely difficult and requires energy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not regularly showing up in the community or regularly showing up with the people, it's going to be a significantly harder stretch to get it stood up. That just goes without saying. I always say the biggest hack in building community is doing it full time. If you do it part-time and you're facing off against somebody that's doing it full-time, I don't care if you're better at part-time. Like, it is an hours thing because these are people and like, and they show up at different times.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. Start small, even if it's for a short period of time. Build it wherever is the easiest to start, literally. Do we go to this perfect platform? Do we do Mighty Networks? Do we do Slack? Do we do Discord? Whatever you're already on, let's keep it super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Pick something you're already on and the people in your community are already on. That could be text fucking message. That could be WhatsApp. That could be Slack. If you're in B2B and you're telling me everyone's already on Discord, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Like, come on. If you're at B2B and you're telling me everyone's already on Mighty Network, okay, maybe you have a community on Mighty Network. But for the starting point, make it simple. Make it stupid simple. And then when you realize that there's traction and there's need to put it somewhere to do more things, then figure it out. Don't get all fancy in the beginning, like especially with building community, because you don't want people to churn just because you make it difficult to use something they're not already using. And I was thinking through this. I'm like, I get why WhatsApp's coming up so much. I'm like, why don't we just do it with text message?
Yeah.
And I'm like, WhatsApp's a little more organized, a little more scalable, stuff like that. I get it, a little more international.
Mm-hmm.
And WhatsApp is great, but it could be text messaging, like 20 people. Why not? Like, I think that would hit so hard. It would also annoy the fuck out of everybody, which is a good thing. You'd be like, okay, cool, we're moving to this platform now.
Yeah, I love that.
And also be conscious. Text message in particular, there's a law of diminishing return on platform, like where the busier it gets, if you're at a platform that turns people off, like text might, WhatsApp might, people might become inactive because they're just so numb by like the machine gun firing of text back and forth.
I love that. But I think the principle, right? Like start simple, start where you are.
Start where you are, though.
And when it gets annoying, then we can grow. But I love that. Jared, I really appreciate your time. I know we're both have to move, but I'd love to do part 2 at some point. This was super helpful. I've been really interested on how communities can help categories. And I think you're a person that has a foot on both marketing and sales and community and category. So I think this was fantastic. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Marty. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you for having me.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.